Hey Eli, how you doing? Good morning, good morning. Oh, Eddie's not here. He was lucky enough to get taken out for breakfast. Yeah, one of the workers here is a really good friend of ours, and he decided he's got today off, so he is um, went out for breakfast. Hey Nicole, no problem, no problem. You got to definitely get your sleep. Okay, Eli. Oh yeah, he's going after Eddie's job. What's he cooking? Anything good? Hopefully he's cooking good stuff. Food. Smart ass. God, I tell you, what a smart ass. Very cool. I know that stuff's always so nice to have. We can talk to him all the time. Oh, why is my chat looking funky? Hold on a second. Let me fix that. There we go. That's a little bit better. Yes, that he is. It's definitely a smart ass. Nothing wrong with that though. There you go. Say, ooh, cook it for me, darling. I don't have an intro yet for today's live, so you're going to have to bear with me. Oh, I always forget to switch my chat to live chat. There you go. That works. That works. It's nice to take turns. Yeah, Eddie's not here today. He got taken out to breakfast. Lucky him. All right, it's just about that time. We'll go ahead and get started. I can't wait for these stories today. I'm excited. Let's see if we can solve some unsolved murders, unsolved mysteries. These shows are going to be, done on Tuesdays from now on, but um, today I just couldn't wait to tell these stories anymore. That's just what's up. So happy Thursday, everyone. How are ya? As you heard from previous show, Um, I have switched today up, and instead of this being game day, it's now Thriller Thursdays, which today we'll be discussing true crime and unsolved murders, but next week it'll be legends and lore. This week we'll be talking about the disappearance of the Five Sodder children, A tragic Christmas story remains unsolved more than 60 years after the disappearance of 5 young siblings. Then we're talking the death of the Black Dahlia. This story has captured my attention for many, many years. What happened to Elizebeth Short? Then we'll talk about the most peculiar unsolved mysteries, the murder of William Desmond Taylor. I hope you'll stick around and chat about these and more on Thriller Thursday. As always, if you're listening on the podcast portion of this, I invite you to come on over to the live shows and jump into the conversation. Of course, all the links will be down in the description. I will try to share them as we go along, but you know how it is. I always forget. So are you ready for some Thriller Thursdays? Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I hope everybody is doing well today. We'll wait for a couple more people to come in. See if anybody wants to come in and hang out and chill. I was up late last night thanks to Mary and Cassie. I was up on their panel for a little bit. Hey, Shrimp Shack, how you doing? Good morning. It's the same here. It's the same here, Nicole. It's sun shining out. It's a beautiful day out, but it's way too warm in this apartment. Good to hear, Shrimp Shack. Good to hear. Excuse me. My goodness. Yeah, so today's stories, this is going to be moved to Tuesdays. Thriller Thursdays is going to be all about legends and lore. And then Saturday is going to be tarot readings. We're going to flip flop back and forth between game day and tarot readings because Eddie yelled at me and he's like, no, you need a day off. So Sundays is going to be my day off so I can get everything situated and everything. Usually I do the shows a week in advance. So Sundays will be my day to do research in that. He's doing good, Shrimp Shack. He's doing good. He's out to breakfast this morning. He got asked out to breakfast. Well, I did too, but I said I can't. I got a show to do. But they're going to bring me something back for breakfast. Nope, not today anyway. Not today anyway. He'll be getting his chair should be coming today. His desk should be coming by Saturday anyway. Hopefully. Everything should be hooked up and running by Monday. So Monday should be his start of doing this with me. So, and again, thank you guys so much for, welcoming me. And yeah, I know. They could do a comedy live stream. Oh my God. Yeah, one of our regulars that stays here, we get to see him like once a year. He stays here while he does work. And we're all really close. And he's got today off. So he asked Eddie, he's like, you and Missy want to go out to breakfast? He's cooking. And he's cooking us all breakfast. Well, all dinner, I guess, over there. I'm glad you guys are doing well, though. Oh, all right. Well, he's cooking us, Shrimp Shack. He's going to cook me and you dinner. And himself. Since Nicole just had dinner. She's the party pooper. You can have a couple bites with us, Nicole. Right? That's funny. That is hilarious. I love it. I love joking around with you guys. I really do. So last night I guess we had some spirit activity here. Um, Apparently, the little there's a little girl back and a guy pacing back and forth. He's saying what just saying what he says. Don't shoot the messenger. I won't. I won't. Yeah, I guess a couple people said they could see the spirits walking, pacing back and forth, and picked up right away of what Eli was saying the other night with the head coming out. You know, the little kid head coming out of the wardrobe, and then the guy pacing back and forth. So I can't see him. So, but I had I had my K2s out, and it was really cool. We did the spirit box, and I had my grid out, right, my laser grid, and all of a sudden it said batteries, and I looked over, and my grid light was like down to minimal. You couldn't see it on screen. It was still running though, but it was just like it was draining my batteries. It was over on Cassie's stream. Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was just we weren't planning on doing it, but I figured people said they were seeing things, so I'd get the K2s out. It was interesting. Definitely pretty interesting. Definitely, definitely. All right, shall we get to show on the road? Let's start with the first story. Let me get my notes up here. Would they just go to bed? They probably did. They were up. I'm like, I told them, I said, listen, I got to go to bed or there's not going to be no show tomorrow. It was 1 o'clock my time, I think 1 or 1:30 my time that I left there. So it was what? 1:30, 2:30, 5:30 on the East Coast when I left. Those girls are nuts. All right. I should probably share the screen. Screen. Blah, blah. Share the. Yeah, whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. Hey, Miss Bugaboo, what's up? How is you? I got your stories. Those are awesome. Awesome. They're going to be told next Thursday. The paranormal ones will be Monday, but yeah. Delta Rune fan has become my little researcher. She's finding me all the good stories of legends and lore and everything to do. I don't have an intro for today's show. Um, and her brother Ryan is going to be doing my intros. So, oh, that's not what I want. I want that. There we go. All right, guys. So here we go. So the year was 1945 on the night before Christmas in Fayetteville, West Virginia. George and Jenny Sodder, along with 9 of their children, were asleep when a fire started in the house around 9 a.m. There you go. Thank you, Nicole. George, Jenny, and 4 of their children escaped: Sylvia, Marion, John, and George Jr. No problem, Danielle. The children that remained in the house were Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny, and Betty, and the 5 of them shared 2 bedrooms between them, both of the bedrooms upstairs. George broke back into the house to save the rest of the children, but the staircase was on fire. When he went outside to retrieve the ladder, it was missing from its normal spot, and both of his coal trucks, which he wanted to use to park outside and climb on top of, were strangely not starting. One of the children, Marion, who escaped the fire, ran to a neighbor's house to call the fire department. but the operator didn't respond. And when a different neighbor attempted to call, she also got no response from the operator. That same neighbor actually drove to town and found the chief, F.J. Morris, in person. But even though the fire department was only located 2.5 miles away from the home, the firefighters bizarrely didn't reach the Sodder's house until 8 a.m., 7 hours after the fire began. And by the time they arrived, the house was literally in crumbles. Authorities scavenged the ashes of the fire looking for the remains of the 5 Sodder children, but nothing was found, and they were presumed dead due to the fire. The fire chief, Morris, suggested that the fire may have been so hot that it completely cremated the children's bodies, including the bones. While that theory sounds reasonable, it is not entirely accurate because when flesh is burned away, bones are typically left behind like fragmented form. Additionally, there was no smell of burning flesh reported during or after the fire. The cause of the fire was deemed to be bad wiring in the house in the weeks after the Fayetteville coroner's office issued death certificates for the 5 Sodder children. The basement of the house still remained, and George would later use a bulldozer to cover it up with 5 feet of dirt to create a memorial for his children. And this is the memorial. Soon after the fire, George and Jenny began to suspect their children were not dead, but kidnapped. Believing that the fire was deliberately set to set a diversion and was not result of faulty wiring. In fact, George had actually had the wiring in his house checked earlier that fall by the power company, which they had deemed the wiring is in safe working order. Those are the 5 missing Sodder children. George Sodder had immigrated from Italy and Fayetteville, where the Sodders lived, had a small but engaged Italian immigrant community, a community that George was very vocal in. He especially about his disdain for Mussolini, sparking a few heated debates in the community. George also reported never revealed why he left Italy, leading some to speculate that he may have been involved in some shady business in Italy. Many believe that either of these reasons may have led to the kidnapping of George's children. So, we're going to look to see what possibly the support of a possible kidnapping. In the fall, just before the house fire, a life insurance salesman came to the house, and when he saw that his sale wasn't going to be successful, he became infuriated, yelling at George, quote, "You goddamn house is going up in smoke and your children are going to be destroyed. You're going to have to be paid for the dirty remarks you have been making about Mussolini," end quote. I mean, hello. Threat right there. That's Jenny Sodder holding her first child, John. In the days leading up to the fire, 2 of the surviving Sodder sons witnessed a man watching the young Sodder children come home from school on Highway 21. Another suspicious occurrence happened that night. On the night of the fire, around 12:30 a.m., the phone rang and Jenny got out of bed to answer it. This would result in an important observation. Jenny noticed the lights were still on downstairs. As she started to fall back to sleep, she heard a loud bang on the roof, followed by the sound of something rolling. And an hour later, she awoke to the smell of the smoke entering her room downstairs. The detail that is interesting in the fact that the lights were still on. If the fire had been caused by faulty wiring, as it's been suggested, then that meant there would have been power to the house, meaning that the lights shouldn't have been working. But Jenny saw that they were on an hour before the smoke. And later, the Sodders would claim that they saw the lights on while the fire was occurring as well. Additionally, a witness to the fire claimed that he saw a man removing a block and tackle typical used for removing engines from cars, perhaps explaining why both George's trucks weren't working that night. After the fire, when the family visited the memorial George had set up, Sylvia found a hard rubber object in the yard, an object that Jenny believed may have caused the loud bang that woke her up that night. But even more interesting was the fact that after further inspection from George, he believed that the object was a napalm pineapple bomb. With all these strange occurrences, and not believing that the fire could have burned her children's bones to ash, Jenny began to experiment by burning different types of animal bones, all which left remains. She spoke to a crematorium employee who told her that the in cremation, bones were left behind even after bodies burned at 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 hours. And the Sodder home only burned for about 45 minutes. Also noteworthy is the fact that the remains of the household appliances were found in the rubble, meaning not everything was up in ash. There has also been reported sightings of the children. One occurred the night that the fire was still burning. A woman claimed to see children in a car that drove by while the fire was still raging. Thank you for the ice cream, Ron. A woman claimed to see the children in a car that drove by while the fire was still raging. 50 miles west of Fayetteville, a woman who operated a tourist stop told police that she saw the children the morning after the fire. She said, "I served them breakfast." There was a car with Florida license plate at the tourist court, too. At the hotel in nearby Charleston, a woman reported seeing 4 or 5 children about a week after the fire. Here's what she said to her statement to the police. The children were accompanied by 2 women and 2 men, all of Italian extinct. I do not remember the exact date. I tried to talk to the children in a friendly manner, but the men appeared hostile and refused to allow me to talk to the children. I sensed that I was being frozen out, and so I said nothing more. They left early the next morning. A few years later, George saw a photograph of a New York City school children in a newspaper, and one of the kids looked like his missing daughter, Betty. George drove all the way to New York to investigate, but once he tracked down the child's parents, they declined to speak with him. Kind of shady stuff, right? In 1947, 2 years after the fire, George and Jenny attempted to involve the FBI, who offered to help, but in a curious turn of events, the Fayetteville Police and Fire Department both denied the offer. Then they turned to a private investigator. His name was C.C. Tinsley. One suspicious revelation occurred when Tinsley discovered that a member of the coroner's jury who decided the Sodder house fire was an accident was the same life insurance salesman who threatened George earlier that fall. Another interesting find occurred when Tinsley interviewed townspeople about the fire. Tinsley heard a rumor from the town minister that the fire chief has been telling people that he actually found a heart in the ashes of the Sodder home and that he hid it in a dynamite box and buried it where the home once stood. Yes, Ron did come into the stream. He's over there mooning me. Oh, there he is. Tinsley persuaded the fire chief to show him where it was buried. But once dug up, the heart was actually beef liver and it had never been in the fire. Now, why would somebody do that? Why would somebody do that? Say they buried a heart and it was actually liver. And a fire chief on top of that. In August 1949, the Sodders hired a pathologist named Oscar B. Hunter, who evacuated the dirt that covered the Sodder basement and remains of the house. Hey, Andy. Welcome, welcome. He found 4 shards of human vertebrae and sent it to the Smithsonian for analysis. They hypothesized that the bones were from a 16 to 17-year-old person. However, the oldest missing Sodder children was a 14-year-old boy, making it improbable that the bones belonged to him. They also stated that there was no evidence that the bone had been exposed to fire and that the bones likely originated from the dirt George Sodder used to fill the basement, rather than the remains of the house. This was, of course, before DNA investigation had come into play, and according to the Smithsonian, the bones were given back to George Sodder, but their current whereabouts are a mystery. After the Smithsonian revealed their findings, West Virginia Governor Oki L. Patterson called a hearing in the state capitol building in Charleston, West Virginia, where he officially declared the Sodder case to be closed, telling George and Jenny that their search was, quote, hopeless. It was hopeless, end quote. This led George and Jenny setting up a billboard on Route 16, advertising their missing children, where it remained for nearly 40 years. The billboard kept the story alive and mentioned details such as the children being kidnapped, the fact that the faulty wiring did not cause the fire, the fact that there was no actual bones or residue found, and lastly, accused the law officers involving in a cover-up. What was the motive of the law officers involved? What did they have to gain by making us suffer for all these years of injustice? Why did they lie and force us to accept those lies? People around town had various theories. Some believed that the mafia had been involved. Others believed that the children are now in Italy or that they've been sold to an orphanage. The family received a letter from a woman in St. Louis saying that the oldest missing daughter, Martha, was at a convent there in St. Louis. Someone in Florida also said the missing children were living with Jenny's distant relative. And the ever-diligent George Sodder investigated all these tips, but each came up empty. Another hopeful tip came in 1968, 23 years after the fire, in the form of photographs sent to Jenny, specifically addressed to her, not to the family. And there was no return address on the letter, but it was postmarked in Kentucky. The photo was a man in his mid-20s. George and Jenny believed that this could be their son Louis, who was 9 at the time of the fire. The man in the picture had the same dark brown eyes, dark curly hair, strong straight nose, and upwardly tilted left eyebrow. On the back, it had a handwritten note saying, Louis Sodder, I love brother Frankie. Lil Boys, A90132 or 35. They hired a private detective to go to Kentucky and find him, but strangely, this detective was never heard from again. Some of the internet have theorized that the detective took the money and ran, but nobody knows what happened to him for sure. George Sodder passed away shortly after in 1969 at the age of 74, and Jenny Sodder passed away in 1989 at the age of 85. Sylvia, who was 2 at the time, is the last remaining Sodder children alive. She maintains that her siblings did not die in the fire that night. Jenny Hathorne, Sylvia's daughter, told the Times West Virginian to post any information on websleuths.com. Quote, "My mom promised my grandmother that she would never let the story die. And that's what my brother and I are doing." After all these years, the question remains, what happened to the Sodder children on that fateful night? Was this truly the result of a tragic house fire, or were the children actually kidnapped? Hopefully, for the sake of the remaining family, all of these questions will soon be answered. But for now, the case is unsolved. There's the billboard, or at least the wanted poster. $5,000 reward for missing persons. 5 children, brothers and sisters. Were they kidnapped, murdered, mysteriously disappeared? Missing since December 24th, 1945. Any information leading to the whereabouts of their 5 missing children, or even one missing child? This is Maurice, Martha, Louis, and yeah, he does have that wavy hair, Jenny, and Betty. It says which fire destroyed their home Christmas Eve the 24th, 1945. No bones or identification of any markings, it's cut off, of missing children were not found in the ashes and ruins of smoky embers of the burnt home of Mr. and Mrs. George Sodder's family. The parents persist. They still refuse to believe that their 5 children died in that, I'm going to say probably fire, which totally destroyed their home. There was no evidence of any human flesh or bones. That's the photograph that they received that said that it was Louis Sodder. So do you think? Look at that photograph and that. He's definitely got those eyebrows. Yeah, I'm okay. Why? Did I miss something? If they didn't find any tiny bones, they may have been kidnapped. True, yeah. I'm leaning towards that they were kidnapped for some reason. But yeah, there's a resemblance there. Oh, no, it's probably the way I'm turning my head to read it. I usually have it in front of me, but because of the stories, I had to turn it around. So I'm using different monitors for different things. So yeah, I'll put the Smithsonian because I already got rid of the other article, of course, because I forgot. But that's the article on the Sodder children. What do you guys think? Do you think yeah, it looks like Joey out of Friends. It does. But it definitely, there's some resemblance there, I think, with him being Louis Sodder. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think that they were kidnapped, or do you think they died in the fire? I mean, that's crazy. It's really crazy to me. I mean, and for parents, yeah, I think they didn't die in the fire, Nicole says. Yeah, I really don't. I mean, for the parents, I mean, I don't think it was just uh, what is it, remorse or anything for the kids. I mean, those parents looked for their children up until they died. So, I mean, I believe that um, I don't think it was grievous remorse that they kept looking for him. I think they really knew, lack of dead bodies, materials that aroused suspicion. Yeah. Can't believe a house fire would burn hot enough to destroy the bones. Exactly. And that's what I don't know if you heard before when I was talking about it. The coroner, the person at the crematorium even said that. The house was burning for 45 minutes. Bones don't even burn all the way to ash after being in 2,000 degrees fire for 2 hours. Not back in 1945 when you have a ton of plastics in the house that burn hotter than wood. Yeah, exactly, Andy. Exactly. So yeah, I definitely think that they were kidnapped. Something that fire was started, and they were kidnapped for some reason, whatever it be. I mean, he was talking bad about Mussolini. The mafia and mob was around big time around that time in the history. You never know, But it's really sad that they, died not knowing where their kids, what happened to their kids. It's pretty sad. Yeah, aliens did it. So, next on the list is the Black Dahlia. I've been captivated by this story for a long time. So it says the death of the Black Dahlia is one of the most infamous unsolved murders in American history. So what happened to Elizabeth Short, and where and who are the suspects in this chilling murder? On the way back to the nuclear testing ground. Yeah, right? On January 15th, 1947, the remains of Elizabeth Short, now infamously known as the Black Dahlia, was found. Elizabeth Short's body was found on a vacant lot in the 38th block of South Norton Ave in Los Angeles. The person who discovered her body originally mistook it for a mannequin because the body was so pale and drained of all its blood. There was no blood on the ground around Short, indicating her body had been moved there after the murder took place. Her face was cut from her mouth to her ears, creating a gruesome smile. 9 days after she was found dead, the examiner received a letter with a message cut from movie clippings. The letter read, "Here is Dahlia's belongings, letters to follow." Wow. Sure enough, the letter contained Short's birth certificate, her social security numbers, snapshots that belonged to her, and an old address book. Police were unable to identify a suspect from the papers because gasoline had been rubbed all over the documents to remove any fingerprints. Several notes were sent to the police and press later, one reading, turning in Wednesday, January 29th, 10 a.m. Had my fun with police. Black Dahlia Avenger. However, no one ever turned themselves in. Yeah, same, Nicole. Same. Before arriving in Los Angeles, Short spent time in San Diego with a man named Robert Manley. Manley then drove Short to the Biltmore Hotel in Los Angeles. This appeared to be the last place Short was seen alive. Guests have since reported seeing the ghost of the Black Dahlia wandering around the first floor. Others say that Manley dropped her off at the hotel. She went to the Crown Royal Bar, which is now known as Club Galaxy. So who is the suspects in this case, which has been unsolved for 70 years? The first, of course, is Robert Manley, the man who dropped her off. It should be noted that Manley was committed to a mental hospital after his wife said he was hearing voices. The second suspect was Joseph Dumas. who claimed to be blackout drunk, was shot a couple days before her death. He originally confessed to killing her, but was on his military base the day of her death, making that essentially impossible. Sorry, my bad. The third and perhaps the most interesting suspect is George Hodel. At the time, the Hodel house had a secret room that the children were not allowed to go. So that's his house. That was the black and white is 1947. Now it's 2016. Looking at the facts, Steves makes a pretty compelling case against his own father. George Hodel studied surgery in medical school. This suggests that he was capable of surgical disembowelment and mutilation that was found at the scene of the crime. Along with being a busy doctor, Hodel had 11 children from 5 different women. Steve also found a picture that he believed was short in his father's belongings. When it was originally examined, an expert said they were 85% sure it was not a match. However, when the photo was re-examined in 2014, the expert said it was 90 to 95% a match. Steve also thought his father's handwriting was eerily similar to the Black Dahlia murders, but again, when it was reviewed by experts, they could not come to a definite conclusion. I don't know, guys. Can you see that? Let me go ahead and pump that up a little bit. What do you guys think? I don't know about that. Well, the reason being is he looks like this. Looks like slated, like it's slated right. Where this one looks like it's the 9 looks down. The F look, yeah, it looks different to me. It looks like to you, Nicole. See, it looks a different to me. See, if you look at the F looks. They cut the F off here. The A's over here are wider. George's handwriting looks more defined. Some say to her writings of him that some say to her writings of him that look more like. Yeah. I knew what you meant, Nicole. It's okay. I speak Taiwanese. Other writings of him that looks like. I mean, I no doubt think that he did it, but the fact hey Ryan, George is all slanted to the right, Dahlia is slanted to the left. That's what I was thinking, especially with that 9. You can see that 9, how different that 9 is. Ron, yeah, I'm actually going to talk a little about that because what I read, let me go ahead and finish this and we'll discuss that. George Hodel was also accused of by his own daughter of sexual assault. At one point, police officers did suspect Hodel of murder and planted listening devices in his home. One of these listening devices, you can hear him say the following: supposing I did kill the Black Dahlia. They couldn't prove it now. They can't talk to my secretary anymore because she's dead. I mean, that is going, that is. He also recorded saying he'd like to get a connection made in the DA's office. This suggests that possibly that George could have paid off police. though it hasn't been confirmed. This has been the best payoff I've seen between law enforcement agencies, and I'd like to get a connection made in the DA's office. I'm the same way, Rye. I lurk all the time. They could explain why the case was suddenly dropped and all this could explain why the case was suddenly dropped off and relevant evidence seemingly disappeared. In 2012, Steve Hodel returned to his childhood home with a police dog. Here, the dog found scents of human remains. Soil samples came back positive with evidence of human remains. Although the soil findings didn't connect George to the Black Dahlia murders, since she wasn't buried, it does suggest that he may have not been a stranger to murder. Steve Hodel would like to keep digging at his former home, but the current owner refuses. And even though it seems the case will never be officially solved, of course, in true BuzzFeed manner, it seems to me you're trying to say the LAPD is still trying to cover this up. Even the LA district spokesperson or district attorney spoke out individually in support of Steve's claims against his father. Based on the results of Steve's investigation, I would have no reservations about filing 2 counts of murder against Dr. George Hodel. LA District Attorney Stephen K., 2003. That's true, Ron. I probably will. Currently, the case remains closed, leaving the murder of Elizebeth Short unsolved and several questions unanswered. George's son, Steve Hodel, who was 5 at the time of the Black Dahlia murder, was a police investigator for 17 years. After leaving the force, he became convinced his father was the Black Dahlia murder. Oh, in the correction, they said that Robert Manley was hospitalized in a psychiatric facility in 1954. A previous version of the story misstated the date. Okay, so talking about why she got killed. There was theories run about her being pregnant, yes, but the biggest theory is I remember reading, because I used to research the story so much. It's one of those ones that I heard and gave me chills. You know what I mean? Um, and I watched so many things on this. Uh, printing out the receipt now. Thanks, Rye. Oh, nice, Ron. um, the other theory is now Hodel knew police officers. Like he's a doctor. You know what I mean? So in other stories that I've heard, he had connections to where when cops did dirty things, he helped them get rid of stuff. Do you know what I'm saying? Being a doctor and all. So in that aspect, that's why it became covered up. The third thing that I heard was the Black Dahlia wasn't a girl. And that's why she got killed, was because George Hodel tried to get his freak on with her and then found that out and got pissed. Now, can I prove any of that? No, they're all theories. But that's what I've heard or read or seen, you know. And of course, so here's the a post or a newspaper saying sex being slain, victim identified by fingerprint records of FBI. And of course, is the Black Dahlia herself. Yeah, yeah. It is plausible. I mean, you never know. I mean, I will probably never end up knowing, but Steve is definitely convinced that, you know, that his dad was the one that did it. And he's got convincing evidence. I mean, like the casting couch. Yeah, I mean, he's really got compelling stories or compelling evidence. Exactly, Nicole. Her body was cut. Yeah. I believe it was Hodel. Why won't that paste? There we go. Sheesh. It wouldn't paste. So that's that story from Steve Hodel. And last but not least, we have the murder of William Desmond Taylor. The lack of definitive clues and evidence surrounding this case turned it into a great mystery. So, the morning of February 2nd, 1922, a film director named William Desmond Taylor was found. He was fully dressed, lying face up with blood around his mouth. It appeared as if it wasn't a struggle, and he died of natural causes. I know, I always need more coffee, Ron. That's a good idea. When the coroner arrived, it became clear that there was foul play. Upon lifting Taylor's body, a pool of blood was discovered, and a 38 caliber bullet had entered the left side of his back. Based on the placement of the bullet holes in Taylor's jacket and vest, officials concluded that his arms were raised at the time he was shot. Strangely, police considered that it might mean Taylor was embracing whoever had shot. So he goes to give somebody a hug and boom. They also found silk garments. It was pinkish in color and resembled a nightgown. A detective believed it belonged to a woman. Robbery was ruled out as Taylor's wallet was left behind with $78 cash inside. There was also no other valuable items left inside the home. Before police arrived, Paramount studio manager Charles Eaton visited the crime scene. It's believed that he removed evidence from Taylor's apartment in an attempt to avoid or minimize the scandal. Some people believe he may have even planted false evidence. Comedian Mabel Normand was the last person to have seen Taylor alive. And this is, no, that's not. That's, now where is it? Well, they have every picture but Mabel in here. Oh, right there. There she is. Mabel left Taylor's home at 7:45 p.m. and was driven by her chauffeur. At 8 p.m., the neighbors heard a sound that could have been a gunshot. The apartment manager heard a noise as well, but wrote it off. Shortly after the sound, a man was spotted outside of Taylor's home, but the witness didn't get a good look at his face. The witness did see that he was clean-shaven, white, and dressed in dark clothing and a cap, but the lack of definitive clues and evidence surrounding the case turned it into a great mystery. I didn't even see the link. You retracted it before I saw it. The known details led to the multiple suspects with whom could have killed him. From Taylor's former secretary to a silent film star who felt unappreciated love for Taylor, the suspicion surrounding each suspect is compelling. Despite there being several potential culprits, the person responsible for killing William Desmond Taylor remains unsolved. So, in this, let's go ahead and look at this, right? Taylor's ex-wife, Ethel May Hamilton, reported that Taylor worked as an antiques dealer in her father's establishment while she worked as a stage actress. Taylor was a wonderful husband and father, but had bouts of amnesia during which she would wander off and forget where his home was. He wandered off in 1908 and never returned. Years later, Hamilton and her Taylor's daughter, Ethel Daisy, were watching the film in which Taylor appeared on screen. Pointing to the screen, Hamilton exclaimed, "That's your daddy." While Taylor and his ex-wife never reunited, they did meet in Los Angeles and remained friends, with Taylor supporting and staying in contact with his daughter until death. Now that's kind of weird. Really, Nicole. Margaret Gibson did a confession on her deathbed. Huh. And that's his daughter. Around the same time his wife was divorcing him, Tanner, who by that time changed his name to Taylor. That kind of confused me there for a minute. I was like, what the hell? That's not his last name. Arrived in San Francisco. He had purportedly spent his time since his departure from New York traveling and working at various jobs. Gold prospector, builder, soldier, horse trainer, and locals ranging from the Pacific Northwest to Alaska. With financial help from friends, he moved to Los Angeles and started acting in film. With his equestrian expertise and good looks, he was in high demand and worked with stars of the day. But his true desire was to direct. In 1914, he directed his first film, The Awakening. Taylor was to direct 50 more films before that cold morning he was found dead. Welcome back, Eli. So that's Taylor himself. Belvedere Court Apartments, in which William Desmond Taylor resided, was located in South Abadero Street in then swanky MacArthur Park neighborhood. The apartment complex contained 8 two-unit bungalows situated in a U shape around a central garden. It was in this garden that Taylor's valet, Henry Peavy, ran screaming after he discovered Taylor's body. Hey, Freaky Geek! Welcome, welcome. Gibson was 27 years old when Taylor died. She never a suspect and got a contract with the famous player's Lasky rights after his death. Oh, no shit. In 1934, she called it. She fled the United States, however. She returned in 1940 for medical reasons, and in 1999 became known that Gibson had shot and killed Taylor on her deathbed. Wow, Nicole, interesting. Peavy's screams awoke and attracted neighbors. Van Dermis and Neil Harrington, who both worked at Calmex Oil Company and lived in 408A, ran to see what the matter was, both of them still in their bathrobes. Emil Jesserin, the Jamaican-born designer and manager of the apartments, left his sickbed to go to Taylor's apartment. Douglas McKean, an actor who had appeared in movies directed by Taylor, joined the crowd forming at the apartment, noting that he and his wife, Faith, had heard a loud noise, which they attributed to a car backfiring the night before, and upon looking out the window had seen a man exit Taylor's apartment, step back into it for a few minutes, then leave the premises. The man did not seem suspicious or strange, so McLean's returned to their card game. She also confessed other things the witness said she did not understand. Nevertheless, the case remains open to this day. Yeah. Hey, Sid, how you doing? Welcome. How you doing? One thing that the men noticed was how tidy the body seemed, except for blood beneath his head. Taylor looked as he had willingly lain down, smoothed his clothes, and combed his hair. The position in which the body lay would be impossible for someone to achieve by simply falling down. Moreover, nothing in the premises seemed to be disturbed. The back door was still locked, the windows were still closed and secured. Taylor's wallet contained money, and his watch was still on his wrist. His gun and traveling bag were still undisturbed. That's his boots, gun, and traveling bag. And they were all undisturbed. Another neighbor who awoke to Peavy's screams that cold February morning was Edna Preverance, a leading lady of Charlie Chaplin films living in 402A. She learned Taylor's death. She prompted made calls to the famous players Lasky, um, the studio to which whom Taylor worked, as someone would definitely want to know of Taylor's demise. And of course, that's Charlie Chaplin. When he calmed down, Henry Peavy contacted Harry Fellows, Taylor's assistant director, who promptly called Charles Eaton, general manager of the famous players Lasky. Meanwhile, Taylor's landlord notified the LAPD, who promptly set Detective Thompson Ziegler, a 30-year veteran, to Taylor's home. Upon his arrival, Ziegler called a doctor. The physician showed up, declared that Taylor had died from a stomach hemorrhage, and immediately left. While the doctor was performing his quick examination, studio manager Eaton arrived at Taylor's bungalow and began to question others on the scene. As there was no evidence of crime, and Eaton represented Taylor's employer, Detective Ziegler saw no reason to object to any investigation on Eaton's part. While Eaton concurred with the doctor's diagnosis that Taylor had died of stomach ailments, McLean began to question if the noise he and his wife had heard from the previous night might have not been a car backfire, but rather a gunshot. This made Eaton nervous. Regardless of the cause of death, Eaton wanted a little press as possible regarding Taylor's death. At the time, the film industry was being labeled as a bad influence at the public at large. The rape manslaughter trial of Fatty Arbuckle was casting a shadow on the entertainer's studio, and they were losing money due to dwindling movie audiences and various factions that were demanding censorship on the cinema. Eaton wanted to avoid any whiff of a scandal in the case of Taylor's death. Now, do you think it was really because he wanted to keep it under wraps, or do you think he had something to do with it? After, let's see, Arbuckle's rape manslaughter case would be tried in court 3 times. The first 2 times resulting in a hung jury, the third time resulting in an acquittal. And note that from the jury stating there was not the slightest proof to connect him in any way with the commission of crime. After his arrest and during the trials, many theaters refused to show Arbuckle's films, and most footage of him was destroyed. Despite the courts finding him innocent of all charges, Arbuckle's acting career was permanently ruined. William Hayes, Hollywood chief cinema censor and creator of the Hays Code, banned Arbuckle from appearing on screen for several months after he was found not guilty. Arbuckle eventually worked as a director using the name William Goodrich, and he died in 1933 of a heart attack at at 46. Virginia Rapp, the woman who accused Fatty Arbuckle of sexual assault. To avoid another scandal of such magnitude and possible financial repercussions, Eaton ordered other presence on Eaton ordered others present on scene. Taylor's neighbors, many of whom were in the film industry, would obey Eaton's commands to remove any evidence of impropriety, love letters, liquor, racy photographs, lingerie, lest the press find it. So yeah, he tried to get all this evidence of his lifestyle. He tried grabbing everything all up before the. But do you think it was actually because of that he didn't want the film industry to become a bad name, or do you think it's a cover up, a total cover up, like he killed him? Before any reporters showed up, the coroner arrived and turned over the body. A bullet hole showed that Taylor did not die of stomach ailments, as suggested by the mysterious doctor, but rather than was murdered. The apartment was now a crime scene. Thanks to Eaton's quick actions, damaging and possible crucial evidence had been removed. Although Eaton did later turn over some of the removed materials to the police, there were things removed from Taylor's apartment that remained under wraps by the studio. The police, nonetheless, began an investigation. The last person besides the killer to see William Desmond alive was his good friend Mabel Norman, known as the female Charlie Chaplin. Norman was a reigning queen of comedy in silent films. Oh, hold on one second, guys. Sorry. Moreover, she was one of the first women to be a screenwriter, director, and producer. At one point, she had her own movie studio and production company set up for her by ex-lover Max Sennett. She and Taylor had been friends for years, and it was Taylor who helped Norman overcome her cocaine addiction, going far as to threaten the drug dealers who supplied Norman with the white powder. She had gone to see Taylor on the evening of February 1st after he contacted her to tell her he had two books to give to her. The books were in translation of Netzich and a romance novel by Ethel Dell. She gifted him a bag of peanuts, which they had enjoyed cocktails, prohibition be damned, and discussed literature, and she left at a reasonable hour. Police questioned Norman, but never considered her as a suspect, although Harry Peavy did. A frequent on-screen collaborator of Fatty Arbuckle, she had recently suffered scrutiny in the press, with journalists freely writing of her addiction and questioning her morality. Although cleared by police detectives, she was viewed with suspicion, and her popularity on the silver screen waned. 2 years after Taylor's death, Norman's chauffeur, Joe Kelly, who was actually Horace Greer, a man who had possibly escaped from an Oakland jail, shot Norman's boyfriend with Norman's gun. The press, populace, and studios turned against her, disgraded her reputation, and removed her from theaters. She married actor Lou Cody in 1926, retired from acting in 1928, and died of tuberculosis in 1930. One of her last utterances, "I do hate to go without knowing what happened to poor Billy Taylor." She left at 7:45, Freaky Geek, p.m. The murder supposedly happened at 8 p.m. Around that time, anyway. But she left at 7:45, promptly. Mary, whew, Mary Miles Minter, nee Julie Riley, was a child actress whom Taylor had directed in films including Anne of Green Gables. I love that movie and that cartoon. Nurse Marjorie, and Huckleberry Finn. Forced to work as an actress at an early age, Minter used the birth certificate of a dead cousin to appear older than she actually was and thus be allowed to work, and ruled over by domineering stage mother Charlotte Shelby. No problem. That's what I'm here for. Minter fell in love with the attentive and generally Taylor after first working with him. It is disputed whether or not he returned the affection of Minter, who was 30 years his junior, or was simply looking out for his protege. But love letters from Minter were found in Taylor's apartment, thus making her a suspect in his murder. The resulting scandal ended Minter's film career. Police found love letters from Mary Minter to Taylor and a pink negligee supposedly belonging to Minter in Taylor's home after his murder. But was that really hers? 15 years after Taylor's murder, Mary Miles Minter was called before a grand jury to discuss her diaries. She stated that there was nothing in the diaries that would be of any value to anyone investigating the case. While she was never tried for Taylor's murder, the insinuations that she may have been involved, Charles Higgins's book suggests that she was the killer, caused famous players Lasky to decline to renew her contract. Minter attempted a career as a stage actress, but eventually left show business behind. Miles Minter's mother, or Mary Miles Minter's mother, why they gotta have used three names back then? Charlotte Shelby was also suspect in the William Desmond Taylor murder. A consummate stage mother, Shelby controlled every aspect of her daughter's life and was enraged when she discovered her daughter, who was also her prime source of income, had feelings for Taylor. Whether or not Taylor returned her affection was apparently, she just didn't care about that. Shelby had once threatened to shoot Taylor if he did not leave her daughter alone, and many felt that she had indeed gone through with her threat. In A Cast of Killers, Sidney Kirkpatrick theorized that Shelby was Taylor's killer and paid off attorneys and influential people to stay out of prison. That's the mom. That's true too, Freaky Geek. That's true. So I don't know. Taylor's former valet, Edward Sands, had forged Taylor's signature on checks and had stolen money and valuables, including a car from Taylor's home, while the director was out of town on vacation in 1921. Investigators tracked Sands to a local in Northern California where he learned that he had quit his job and disappeared the day of Taylor's murder. Sands was never found. In spite through the investigation, the police were unable to make any arrest in the Taylor murder case. While none of their leads provide successful and no suspects could be charged, there were confessions to the killing. In 1930, Russo Ronaldo, that name sounds familiar for some reason, um, a 41-year-old accountant confessed to killing William Desmond Taylor. He stated that he was a friend of a movie actress with whom Taylor had argued, and they had gone to Taylor's home to reprimand him for treating the actress so poorly. According to Ronaldo, Taylor drew a revolver, and the two men scuffled, and the gun went off, killing Taylor in the process. Ronaldo's estranged wife, a music teacher in Glendale, California, was questioned and told police that her husband had suffered trauma as a soldier during World War I and only knew about the murder from what he had read in the newspaper. Ronaldo was released from police custody shortly thereafter. That's Russo Ronaldo. Harry Fields claimed to be part of the plot to kill Taylor. Fields claimed that he drove the vehicle which transported the assassins, 2 men and 1 woman, to the director's home. The killing was in retaliation to Taylor's interference with drug trafficking in Los Angeles. Fields was in a Detroit jail when he confessed. His ex-wife told authorities that he was basically a liar and he was an opium user. J.G. Barrett was serving time in Folsom Prison when he confessed to murdering Taylor. He stated that he acted on behalf of another man. His story was discredited by the grand jury. Why does everybody want to confess to this murder? That's messed up. William Desmond Taylor's funeral was held on February 7th, 1922 at St. Paul's Pro-Cathedral, after which he was interred in a mausoleum in Hollywood Forever's cemetery. Despite a number of suspects, various leads, and memorable tips and rash of confessions, the identity of the murder of William Desmond Taylor remains unknown. Why would you want to? I don't know. I guess I'm just weird that way. There's a lot of people coming forward for murder that they all claim they did it. Why is that? Why is everybody trying to confess to this murder? Get their names in lights? The hell's up with that? Thank you for the follow, Dark Clown. Was that on there yesterday? I don't know. If you're watching, thank you for the follow. It's just weird to me. There's so many people that wanted to say that they did it. Very weird. Very, very weird. So what do you guys think with the Sodder children? With the Sodder children, do you guys think that they're probably passed away now, but do you think they were kidnapped? And if so, by who? Might be they all know who actually did it and was protecting them. That could be, because that was, back in the day when everybody did have everybody's back, basically. That's so true, Freaky Geek. So true. I don't know. Crazy stories, though. I definitely think Hodel killed Black Dahlia. I really do think he did it. Just on base of stories that I've heard and everything. And I know these shows. That was the end of the stories that I had for today. I know these are been short streams, and I apologize for that. But just trying to get everything up and running. Yeah, that's true. That's true, Andy. The problem with kidnapping the kids is that they grow up and eventually leave. They're all old enough to remember their lives beforehand, so kidnapping don't make sense to me. So what do you think happened to them, Andy? Do you think that they died in the fire? Right, Freaky Geek? You think so too about Hodel? Yeah, I definitely think that he did it. His motive, I don't know. He just could be a freaky, because what they were saying with him being a sex addict and finding out that Elizabeth Short was actually a dude, he got pissed. Right, Andy. As such, if they were kidnapped, they were later killed off. Too much risk for them to let go. Yeah. That's true, Nicole. Stockholm syndrome, maybe. When someone's killing, yeah, it can happen. That is true. That is true. How old were the kids when they were kidnapped? Young enough they could have been brainwashed into thinking family gave them up and forgetting. They were. Let me see. I gotta pull it up again. Oh, Mike, why is it not pulling up? No, I don't want to sign up for it. Really? Let me see. Let me see. All right. Maurice was 14, Martha was 12, Louis was 9, Jenny was 8, and Betty was 5. Or maybe with everything with the fire. Remember, too, that they were having a fire. So, I mean, they could have been told that their parents died in a fire. They got them out to safely, and sorry, nobody else survived. You know what I mean? So you got to remember that was going on as well. So if the fire was ablazing and they were getting let out the back, maybe the people were dressed up as firemen. Still very weird. Exactly, Nicole. Freaky you. The nice and young could have been tricked over time, but the older ones could have ran away. Well, like I said, you got to remember there was a fire. I mean, oh, 9. Okay. So, I mean, if the fire was going on and they're getting let out of the back while the others are out of the front, right? Because the dad went to go save the other children because those guys, the 9 or the 5 children were upstairs and they shared 2 bedrooms together. So if they're in a different part of the house, it depends on where the house, you know what I mean, was. If people came up and was, maybe they wanted to take all the children, but they could only get those 5. So their house burns down. There's a fire going on. These people are like, come on, there's a fire. Get out, get out, get out. Leads them out the back and says, oh, your family died. We're going to meet your family. Let's say they put them in the car, said, we're going to meet your family at the fire station or wherever they go, right? And said, oh, your family perished in the fire. I'm sorry. They would not know the difference. Either way, it's all nuts. It's crazy. It's all crazy. It's very, very weird, and it's sad. It's really sad. It's very, very sad in my eyes, you know. But with that being said, I thank you guys for hanging out with me. If you want to head over to that other place, my D Live, I will be rolling the credits here soon. Well, let's just do it this way. I was going to share the link, but I'm not prepared as usual. If you want to go hype up the chat there as soon as my stuff loads. Copy that. Put it in there. Okay. Yeah, that's true, Ron. Now it makes you think of the child sex trafficking that's supposed to go on there. Yeah, I mean, you never know. You never know. What, Ron? Boo Boo Vale. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you. It took Eddie 2 hours. He'll love you. He'll love you saying that because it took Eddie 2 hours to put them up. I'm actually going to put these paintings, Haya Truth, the one that Haya did. You can't really see because of my microphone, but I'm going to put these up on the wall somewhere. Yeah, like that. Up on the wall. Um, that's right. My fireflies are frozen to the wall. um, I'm gonna hang them up there, and then I have some candles coming, which I'm gonna put up there and light up. I'm gonna hopefully it's gonna look pretty. We'll see. We'll see. Oh Lord. All right, guys. Let me go ahead and add some moolah. I've added 200 lemons to the chest. You guys are ready? Yeah, I figured it out now, Ron. That is true. I did say that. I figured it out. You don't eat spam, I can toss candy. I like spam. I like lemons, Andy. I added 200 lemons to the chest. What? Nicole likes panties. What? What is turning my chat? You're welcome, Andy. You're welcome. Yeah, that's a fairly honest question on herself or on Andy, Ron. It's a fairly honest question, right? Yeah, so I'm just trying to get like a basis of how many stories I can do before we do the second half of the show, where we'll have the call in and to come up on stream. Hey, Tommy, how are you? Welcome. Sorry, I'm just about getting off of here. The normal shows will go back to being till noon or after. Um, but for right now, I'm just trying to regulate everything, see how, you know what I mean? I'm trying to get everything set. I hope everybody is, or I hope Tommy, you're doing well. I hope everybody's doing well, but since Tommy just came in, by next week, everything should be up and running the normal, which is great. All right, guys, are you ready? Ron mooned you. Ron is a mooner. You can moon him back. You can become a mooner if you'd like to subscribe to my channel over on D Live. You can become a mooner. Banana hammock. It's funny, Ron. I feel like I'm watching uh Bruce Almighty, where the guy from The Office is just spitting out words. That's what I feel like I'm watching. That's right. When the moon's too bright, you put on shades. You guys are hilarious. Why? What's wrong with Eli? Oh, because Ron mooned him. I feel that's what Ron's doing, is just spitting out random things like blah 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 blah. You know, like he did in the movie. He becomes a handsome werewolf. Nicole, when that happens, take a picture, will you? I'll share it. I'll share it. Show everybody what a handsome werewolf he is. All right, guys, are you ready? And you become a vampire? Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. I have released the Lamons. Let's see what everybody gets. I love that gecko. I for sure do. Am I not on? Okay. Hey, oh, nice score. We have Ron with 101 Lamons. Eli got 58.4. Sid got 42.5. Freaky, what happened? Why didn't you get anyone? Freaky, that's just wrong. I think because you put more, what do you call it? Oh, you didn't see it pop up? You didn't hit the, oh no. I said I was releasing them. Oh, I'm sorry, Freaky Geek. Well, hopefully next time. I'm so sorry. Oh, thank you for the lemons, Eli. Are you taking after Z since he's not here? The lemon monster? Thank you for the lemons. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Eli. All right, guys, I'm going to run. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Be safe, take care, and as always, smile with your eyes. Tomorrow's Freaky News Friday. We know what that means. Odd and weird news of the week. And yeah, take care, everybody. I love you guys. Thank you so much for your support. I didn't run the credits. Oh my God. Why didn't you guys tell me? What's up with this? You guys are supposed to warn me. Yes, there's always noon cookies over there on D Live. I still got to update my mods, so don't get mad at me if your name's not on there. I haven't updated it yet, but I will. But I will. Eli's scared of what movie? Bruce Almighty, or the werewolf and vampire movie? I hope you're not mad at me. Oh, okay, for the mod. Yeah, yeah. I'll get you guys up there. I swear. I promise. I'm just trying to get everything situated. You know how it goes. I love you guys. Take care. Ron's over there mooning. Be safe. And again, like I said, smile with your eyes, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you love the stories that I told. Thank you so much for sharing me your thoughts and feelings on it. And yeah, right. It's way too warm here. Or yeah, way too warm here to be mad. Definitely. I agree with you. I agree with you. You don't want to get hotter under the collar. Take care, all. I love you. See you tomorrow.